make sure these are on loose so you don't have explosions. We have one oddball in there due to my daughter's experiments, but these are all ball jars. I'm sure they've been around since the Great Depression. This experiment started in the spirit of frugality. Hunting and gathering in the modern environment has become very expensive. So I decided to see how much food I could procure for $100 and how long could I survive on it. And alas, we have weeks worth of food in weeks, and so we shall sustain until then on the remnants batch. And the other find, which was for $15, $50 with 50 pounds of potatoes. You know, at Left Coast Cave, we're all about keeping it cave, and so we'll make these available. So use rocks, boil them, but we may caveify these and make them perfect for fermentation in 12-quart jars. But here is sanitized and ready to use. Okay, some key learnings along the way. You could probably save yourself the measurement. With this 12-quart jar, it was almost 6 grams of salt every time. And so we'll add the weight to the top, loosely cover with a cap, put it somewhere cool, like out in the garage. And let's check and see how this guy's doing. We've made a disaster of a mess, but we have used all of our carrots, all of our cabbage. We have some remnants left that will juice. But let's see how lunch is coming along. punch is coming along. This is why the writing it down method works. Because as you get into a flow, I'm using tools, you start to get into a rhythm, a system. As humans do, they figure out systems that's working. So I go fill, weigh the whole jar, subtract from the tare weight, divide it by 0.02, add that in salt, add the water, and that's what's bringing us here. So let's crank them out. So you need weights to hold the vegetables down underwater. A better way of eating the earth than sourcing stones. So I'm killing off any harmful bacteria, and we'll use them as tools, as the caveman did. That is left coast and cave at the same time right there. Submerge in clean drinking water. There we go. So you add the salt. So for that many vegetables times 0.02, it's just over 4 grams of salt. And for fermentation, I will use the pink Himalayan salt because it does have all essential minerals. It is the most nutritionally dense salt next to Celtic sea salt. Meaning pink Himalayan number 1, Celtic sea salt number 2. So if you have 218 grams of vegetable, and yeah, you could always zero it out, but I recommend writing it down because as you're working through all of this, you may end up losing track and it turns off and you won't know how much vegetables you have in there, and you want to add 2% of the weight of the vegetables in salt. The first thing you want to know is how much your container weighs. 391 grams. And just in time, our containers are ready for action. Next, we'll make sure this is on sealed. It's sealed, and we'll put it on poultry, and we'll bump that up to, since we added a little extra cabbage, 25 minutes, and let it rip. Instead of, this is not, by the way, this is not a lactic acid fermentation process, so it's not fermented vegetables, it's just kind of like a sauerkraut. By my estimation, we're going to be a little heavy on the carrots, so I added them to the pot as well. And that's what Cave Culinary is all about. We're just experimenting a little bit. And that loosened it up enough that we can stir it up now. For the rest of the carrots, the first step was to get them out of this plastic bag. 1, to avoid plastics, but 2, to avoid that wet environment, which is not good for preservation. So, unless you're fermenting, but if you're just sticking them in the fridge and hoping to keep them a little longer until your hands aren't quite as full and you can do with them what we'll do with them, you want to keep them dry and cool. So I will hit steam. For 2 minutes and see if that does the trick to loosen it up. It's kind of hard to stir this stuff up as is, but stir it to the best of your ability. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of pressure just to see if that helps me stir it up. So I will hit saute. Next you add 6 tablespoons of salt. Pink Himalayan sea salt has the most minerals. Celtic sea salt, the second most. You can get the details on our YouTube channel. Look up eating the earth modality and washing your fruits and vegetables. A half a cup of water. Now this is 1.5 heads of cabbage. I couldn't fit all of it in there. Here's the remaining cabbage. I'm going to add in this instant pot 1.5 cups of cider vinegar, organic Bragg cider vinegar. So we started this project around 10:30. Thanks to modern technology, here 20 minutes later we have a bright bowl of orange carrots, a beautiful array of purple cabbage, a crimson bowl of winter organic beets, and we added a bowl of onion as well. And while our jars are still sanitizing, let's discuss what we do with the remnants. Yes, I oversourced, but in cave fashion, we will not waste. We will find something to do with every last bit. Same with the beets. You can use this device, pin it down, generally it takes only a few strokes to get the job done. Within a matter of a few good solid strokes, you have yourself some beautiful beet shreds. Why we love modern technology. What used to take an hour or more took 10 minutes with this handy little device. Through the process of experimentation, we've figured out the proper methodology for doing this here. So between 2 fingers, gripping the guard here, you can keep your fingers from becoming part of the fermentation process. And just kind of run it down until you towards the end, and then we'll deal with those later. Now, one thing I did not do, you did not see me do, was wash these prior to. One thing we learned at leftcoastcaveman.com or our Left Coast Caveman YouTube channel under the washing your fruits and vegetables cast is that the process of fermentation, the lactic acid fermentation, cleans up those harmful chemicals, harmful pathogens and bacteria, replacing it with helpful, nutritionally boosting bacteria. See how quickly that works. Speaking of modern technology, here's that, whatever you call this, in action. You see how quickly, making sure you use your guard here, but see how quickly it produces these fine shreds. May need to finish the last few with the chef knife, otherwise it really gets the job done quick. Left coast style. One absolutely lovely aspect of root vegetables is that I sourced these beauties probably 3 weeks ago. And look how well they stay. Go to leftcoastcaveman.com and read the article about root vegetables and why perhaps they were most prevalent in the winter time, harvested in the winter time. It's for that reason. They do tend to stay good for longer periods of time. And so we're going to extend that process through fermentation, an ancient technology. Next, I'll slice and chop all of these root vegetables with a variety of modern technology methods, including the standard chef knife and whatever this handy little contraption is, which I would recommend if it had the brand on it, but this is all I can tell. PL. Whoever you are, great product. Fermentation, the perfect example of left coast cave, combining modern technology with ancient practices. First, I sanitize the jars with high temperature and pressure. First step in the fermentation process, I'm going to sanitize these jars. Also in the winter time, we note that these are winter vegetables at leftcoastcaveman.com. And what's also practical about canning in the winter time is that the garage stays nice and cool. So these will stay for a few weeks. We'll keep an eye on them to make sure no explosions. And of course, we will test them once completed their lactic acid fermentation process.